Hello everybody, how are you doing? Welcome back to Man City Unplugged, your very own Man City fan channel. I know it's been quite a bit of time since I've come live, but I'll apologize for that. And from now, I'll make sure that almost every evening like this, we'll have a show so that we can discuss things about City, where the transfer news and a lot of stuff. Because the transfer window, I think it's just a matter of time that the transfer window just starts running as a whole, and also for us as a club, because the first thing is that Pep Guardiola likes his teams to, likes all the players to, come to preseason, most of the players. So City always like to get the transfer business done very early before the preseason begins, and the preseason begins this Sunday against Yokohama City FC, which is of course a club that is part of the City Football Group. So it's just so I think it's just a matter of time before we wrap up another deal by Sunday. Now, what is that deal gonna be? That is actually another question. That is actually another question that is interesting. And by the way, look at this shirt, guys. Champions. This is who we are. Treble winners, champions. This is who we are. City, the treble winners. The neighbors have conquered Manchester. Manchester is blue. These three trophies represent where we have come. This is City, the dawns of Manchester. We can just ridicule United fans, have a pop at them for a long, long time about this thing. That is for sure. I'm pretty sure about it. But a couple of things about this transfer window before we get into the headlines and stuff, and discuss in depth about what is actually going on. Am I surprised at the way this transfer window is going? Yes, I'm a bit surprised. And I won't accept people telling me that this transfer window has been slow for all the clubs. I don't, because you go and see Liverpool. Okay, Arsenal, Declan Rice is another thing. They have planned for Declan Rice since January, and apart from that, they haven't. Okay, they've got Timber, but apart from that, they haven't done much. But look at what Liverpool has done. Look at how Newcastle is moving. So there are deals out there to be done in this transfer window if we are, if we are fast enough. I know this is a treble winning side in City. This is a side that doesn't need major reinforcements. But then this is also one of the difficult times for a club, in the sense that when you're at the top, that is when you can be a little bit more chilled out. The motivation levels can be that little bit lower because you have won everything that is to be won this year. You have been consistent in the last 3-4 years, winning Premier League after Premier League. No one would say anything if you just took one season or even 2 seasons off. So how does Pep Guardiola now prevent that from happening? That is the biggest question from me. How does Pep Guardiola prevent that from happening? So I think that is why he needs to rejig this squad. That is where this transfer window for me is very, very crucial. It's crucial because you want the players who have won the treble to feel that little bit of insecurity about their places. I would come this far and say that Pep Guardiola, in his mind deep down, would want even someone like a Erling Haaland to feel that little bit insecure deep down and fight for his place. He does not want Haaland, Bernardo Silva, Grealish, whoever to become complacent. If Ruben Diaz becomes complacent, Pep Guardiola wants someone to come in and take his place and drop him to the bench. So those are the standards that Pep Guardiola has set, and that is what he really wants us to do this season. So that is how he's preparing the team. So I think Mahrez is going, which we'll discuss a bit in depth. And then Josko Gvardiol is an interesting one. So we have to have a replacement for Mahrez. Seems like Walker is going. The talks with Bayern and Walker are like absolutely close. They're very, very close. It seems that personal terms are almost agreed, and City and Bayern will negotiate a fee. We'll get into that. An interesting name has actually popped up. An interesting name has actually popped up. The name is an alternative for Josko Gvardiol. He's Abdullah Ndaya, and I have not heard about this. I have not heard about Abdullah Endaya. I have not at all, I have not heard about Abdullah Endaya at all before this name was mentioned by the Guardian actually. I think yesterday. City are now looking at Abdullah Endaya as an alternative to Josko Gvardiol. When I say an alternative to Josko Gvardiol, it's not that we have left the Josko Gvardiol transfer and now we are concentrating on Endaya. But if everything goes wrong, if in the worst case scenario, if Guardiol doesn't join City, then the Guardian is telling that up and Dyer will be the second choice for City, and City will pounce on him quickly because he's 21 years old and and he's playing on loan now. He's a Lyon player, but he's playing on loan in some French for some French club. I don't remember the name. Uh, but what I was interested is I was interested about the profile of Andaya because if you want Andaya to be an alternative to Josko Guardiol, what should be the profile of Andaya? The profile of Andaya is actually interesting. He's for starters is right-footed. His pace is average. He has good strength. He's very good aerially, and he has very good tackling ability. Now, the thing that put me off a little bit is he's right-footed number one, and also he has average pace. And these two are the essential attributes of someone who specially plays either side of Ruben Diaz, left or right. If you look at someone like Ake, Walker, even Manuel Akanji, you look at these players who have predominantly played on the on either side of Ruben Diaz. I mean on either fullback positions. One common thing is they have good recovery pace. Even Akanji has good recovery pace. It might not be at the level of Walker, but he has good recovery pace. So I mean Endaya for me he doesn't have that recovery pace. And well, I mean I admit I've only seen a few clips of Endaya, but for me his it sometimes seems to me that when he gets caught out sometimes and the attackers just go past him a bit more easily. Is he a very good 1v1 defender? I actually doubt that he is a very good 1v1 defender. He's good at tackling, but when you look at all of Pep Guardiola's defenders, tackle is not their major attribute. That is because their positioning is so excellent. And when Endaya is good at tackling and he makes quite a lot of tackles, recovery tackles, that actually tells you that Endaya might just be that bit off, positionally as well. The one thing over Josko Guardiola is very good aerially, but that won't be a matter because City are the best team at defending set pieces in Europe last season in the Premier League, of course, and in Europe as well. So I actually think that won't be a big that won't be a bigger concern. That won't be a bigger concern for Pep, the aerial thing and stuff. So I don't see how this transfer actually works out. I don't see how this actually works out. It's because you're and he's also right-footed, bloody hell, which means if he's right-footed, then what do? You bring in another right-footer who can play in the left back position because ideally we need cover for Nathanake. We need to replace the Joao Cancelo position. That is why we are bringing in Josko Gvardiol, right? So now you bring in Endaya, who's going to play on the right? No one. You're just a Nathanake injury away, and Nathanake does pick up quite a bit of injuries. So ideally, you're just a Nathanake injury away from disaster if we go through with this. So it's actually gonna be interesting how why this name has popped out because there have been 2 3 outlets and a reliable journalist as well. Was it Sam Lee? I do not know. It was a reliable journalist as well who has indicated that City might be going in this down this path if the negotiations with Josko Gvardiol fall through somehow. I hope the negotiations with Josko Gvardiol don't fall through because Josko Gvardiol for me, I look at him, he reminds me of someone like Apollo Maldini. He really has that X factor in him. So, I just want us to get over this Josko Gvardiol deal. Uh, the latest on this, yeah. the latest on this Josko Gvardiol deal actually is that the add-ons are finalized, the terms are agreed with the player. It's just a fixed amount. I think Leipzig want 100 million, and City are prepared to give 90 million or something. It's just that five. It's just the 10 million euros gap between both the sides. So I just hope that we finalize the things. I just hope that we finalize the Josko Guardiola deal soon enough. I was a bit worried actually reading this news about us potentially looking at a deal for an alternative of Josko Guardiola, because you look at City, and City are such a team that they have never been afraid in the past to look at to walk away from deals if the prices are not right. Laporte early on was an example, Harry Maguire example, and then Fred was an example. Last season, I mean, Cucurella was an example last season. So I just think that I just want us to sign Josko Guardiola. The second thing we'll get into is Riyad Mahrez. Riyad Mahrez has agreed personal terms with a Saudi club, uh, and I mean they're actually offering him 25 million pounds per year. Wow! And they're ready to pay a transfer fee of 25 million pounds for him as well. These are just crazy numbers that the Saudi league is just bringing up. So so I actually think that I think we are resigned to lose Mahrez. There's no doubt about it. But one thing I would say is it was not in City's plans, and it was not in Pep's plans, to actually lose Riyad Mahrez, because I think Pep thought, especially with Gundogan going, I think Pep thought that he will have Riyad Mahrez for at least another season. I think deep down Pep actually thought that losing both Gundogan and Mahrez was a big blow. The reason is experience. When you want your Cole Palmer, your James McAtee to come into the team, or even a young winger, even a new winger you buy, when you want him to come into the team, what do you want to do? You really want someone like a Mahrez to guide him, help him in the transition. So I think Pep was expecting at least one more year out of Riyad Mahrez actually, but the numbers of the Saudi league are so mind-boggling. If the Saudi league wasn't there for sure, then then I actually think that Riyad Mahrez should have stayed on at City for one more year for sure. I mean, the complexion of this transfer window would have been entirely different if the Saudi league wasn't there. Chelsea would have struggled to offload players. Their transfer window would have been stuck. Well, it still seems stuck, but it's actually very interesting where this transfer window is going. So, I mean, just a word on Bernardo Silva now, because we have been strong. Yesterday, Barcelona chairman was also actually stating something about Bernardo Silva. He was actually stating that Bernardo Silva would be a dream signing for him. Bernardo Silva would be an absolute dream signing for him. So we can't surely afford to lose Riyad Mahrez, Bernardo Silva, Gundogan's gone, Kyle Walker's going. That's an entire core of a team that has propelled you in situations like in January where you were down and out. So you just can't expect to lose all four of them. And three are certain to go now. Bernardo, Gundogan's gone, and Kyle Walker's also certain to go. This actually means that we cannot lose Bernardo Silva. I mean, there have been rumors that City might get Frankie De Jong in exchange for Bernardo Silva. I don't want that, because you're losing your core if you lose Bernardo as well. Frankie De Jong comes in, that's fine. De Jong is a fine player in some aspects. De Jong might be a player who is the same skills as Bernardo Silva in terms of carrying the ball, that unpressability, that work rate, and everything. Maybe not the work rate, but most other things as a midfield player. But what about knowing the dressing room inside out? What about that experience of spending time with these lads for two eras? Bernardo Silva came here in 2017, right? 17-18 season, and it's 6 years. He's almost seen two transitions, and this is a third transition. Frankie De Jong does not have that experience of seeing so many transitions. So what about those things? So I mean, when you look at transfers and think just about the skills of the player, I think that is the wrong way to approach a transfer window. And I've seen many fans fall into these pitfalls and many clubs fall into these pitfalls as well. Big clubs, Manchester United, have season after season after season for the last 10 years, they're looking at the player but not looking at the compatibility of that player to this club. Chelsea, in a way, have fallen into that trap in the last 1 or 2 years. So I think one thing where City have done exceptionally well is we just don't look at the skills of the player, but we also look at the adaptability of the player to the dressing room, the personality of the player. We evaluate buying players or not in the transfer window based on, does the player fit into the ethos of the dressing room? Does the player have the personality to, cheer up this dressing room, personality to give positive energy into this dressing room? Cancelo was a prime example. Cancelo was spreading negative energy in the dressing room, and boom, Cancelo's out. Cancelo is out in a whimper. So in that respect, no Frankie De Jong. No Frankie De Jong. Just because of the experience of Bernardo Silva to guide us through the transition. Because when you look at it overall, Kevin De Bruyne is now in 32. I think he is not going to be there. I think at least for 1 month after the season begins. So where is the experience? Haaland is new. Grealish is new. Relatively, okay, he's had 2 seasons, but he's relatively a new. This thing Alvarez is new. Kovacic has just come in. Where are your experienced leaders who could lead you to transitions? Where are your leaders who have seen transitions? Ruben Diaz is a leader, but Ruben Diaz has not seen transitions at City. Rodri has not seen transitions at City. This could be the first transition that both Ruben Diaz and Rodri see. So there's only John Stones, I think, apart from the goalkeeper. There's only John Stones, apart from Edison. There's only John Stones and Kevin De Bruyne. The two other players have seen the transitions in this team. So have the experience to guide the team into a new era. So Bernardo Silva is important in more than one aspect for me. He's so much important. We can not let him go at any cost. And also another thing, people might think, where would you play Bernardo Silva? I would actually play Bernardo Silva. I see Bernardo Silva playing in the midfield position in place of Gundogan, because now people were, I didn't think of it in this aspect, but now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, aha, Pep could have seen it, because Gundogan's gone, but I think we have Foden and Bernardo Silva who could play that role of what a Gundogan did. Runs from the midfield, Foden can do it. You saw what Foden did against Inter Milan, that spin and turn, and he should have scored that second goal. Went through one on one. So Foden can do that. Okay, Foden has to learn a little bit to control the tempo of the game, but with his skill and all, I think Phil Foden will actually do that. So Phil Foden could be a direct replacement of Gundogan, and I think, dare I not say this, I know Gundogan is a legend, he's a treble winning captain for us, but Phil Foden for me could be an upgrade on Ilkay Gundogan. I know I could get a lot of stick for this, but Phil Foden, technically wise, his understanding of the game, his skill wise, his turn of pace, for everything Gundogan did, Gundogan used his intelligence to time those runs into the box. But Phil Foden has the draw pace as well, where he can turn a defender with a skill and just go past him like a bullet goes in a breeze. So in Phil Foden we have already got an upgrade in Gundogan. So it's superb from Pep, I must say. I didn't think of it this way, but it's superb from Pep. He knew exactly what he was doing when he let Gundogan go. And Bernardo Silva, I think 2 seasons back, I think, when our strikers, when Gabriel Jesus was injured, when Raheem Sterling was not having good form, Bernardo Silva played in that false nine position. And in the first half of that season, 2 seasons back, he was the player of the season. He was the player of the Premier League. He played so well, playing in that false nine position, making runs from deep. So ideally, you could say Bernardo Silva could also play in that Gundogan's position, and he could control the tempo of the game. Bernardo Silva is superb in that midfield. So suddenly your headache is not to replace Ilkay Gundogan. Your primary headache is to buy a winger who could replace Riyad Mahrez. And Pep is not a fool that Pep has bought Kovacic. Pep has bought Kovacic because I think Pep has understood Bernardo and Phil Foden could play a lot more Gundogan role or in that Kevin De Bruyne role because De Bruyne is 32. So who will play that holding role for me? It has to be Kovacic, it has to be Calvin Phillips. So you don't know about the form of Calvin Phillips, and that's why Pep has bought Mateo Kovacic. And coming on to the replacement of Riyad Mahrez, because Riyad Mahrez is going to go to Saudi. It's almost done. The negotiations are almost at the later stage. Who is the winger? Who do you want to replace Riyad Mahrez, right wing? Couple of interesting choices. Couple of players who will audition for that role. To be fair, in this preseason matches, it's going to be do or die for them. I mean, one option is an homegrown option in Cole Palmer. What do you guys think about Cole Palmer? What does Cole Palmer? I mean, I know when I say Cole Palmer, people actually think of this season and you'd say, Mohan, Cole Palmer shit. I do not want. End of last season, people were like, especially semi final, FA Cup semi final, people were like, Cole Palmer shit, Mohan. He should never start. Cole Palmer is such a selfish brat. Lot of those things. But football is so, we have such a short memory of football that we do not remember what Cole Palmer did the season before and the season before, when he had two wonderful seasons, one in the academy and the other when he was breaking into the first team. Why should we forget that? He's a young man, and last season he suffered a bit of injury, confidence gone. If you don't back him as fans, if you don't back a young homegrown player who ripped up the elite league, the elite squad, the under 23s, and who was superb against your Swindon Town and all when he came on 2 3 seasons back. If you don't back him, who will back him? I still believe in Cole Palmer, and people know that I'm a fan of Cole Palmer. I like Cole Palmer, and I back Cole Palmer to be an eventual replacement of Riyad Mahrez for me. I think Pep sees that as well. I do think this season could be the breakthrough year for Cole Palmer in terms of him, real people telling, wow, what a talent he is, what a player he is, because the guy has technicality. The dribbling skills of Cole Palmer are just superb. He dribbles a bit differently than Riyad Mahrez, but when he wants to dribble, you rarely see him lose the ball. His weak foot is good. His shooting ability is good. I know he didn't pass last season much more when a free player was available and stuff. That is because he was, his confidence was just not there, injury and stuff, and he did not want to lose his position in the team. He saw what happened to Liam Delap. Liam Delap could not grab his chance 2 3 seasons back, and Cole Palmer certainly was thinking, if I don't grab my chance now, I might never get a chance again. So, this is the fear that you have to remove from young players if you really want young players to come through from your academy to the first team. You have to make them fearless. I think Pep will go to Cole Palmer and say, play your natural game. If you lose the ball, it's on me. I don't care. What I care is you being direct, you passing the ball to your player if he's available free. You being yourself, you expressing yourself. I think Pep will go to Cole Palmer and tell that, because City are not allowing Cole Palmer to leave. I know there have been links with Burnley and stuff, but City do not want to allow Cole Palmer to leave actually. So I think Pep knows the amount of talent that is there with Cole Palmer over there. And another option and another name I forgot to mention is James McAtee. There has been no, it's strange, but there has been no discussion in media, in City fan forums, anywhere about this player. But what a player this is. All of you guys, I'm telling you now, all of you guys will just open your mouth and see and you'll exclaim, wow, what a player Cole Palmer is. He's such a super player, Cole Palmer. Sorry, not Cole Palmer, James McAtee. I mean, he's called as the Salford Silva. He moves like David Silva in tight spaces. Some of the people say, people who have followed him in Sheffield United last season, I mean, 19-year-old boy who carries a club to promotion. What else can be said about his temperament, about his attitude, about how we can approach big situations? Someone who just has world class mentality. I mean, I don't care about ability. If you have mentality, you just can conquer anything. someone who has world class mentality. That is what Pep looks at, and James McAtee is. I think James McAtee will be the breakthrough. Will have a breakthrough season like Cole Palmer. I think James McAtee could be a mainstay in our midfield as well. You know, the way it's just fantastic. And along with doing what David Silva does, I mean, similarities in the kind of play. He's not at the level of David Silva as yet, and it'll take a lot of years to reach there. But in terms of his movement, in terms of the way he glides through tight spaces, he also has that ability to shoot from to actually take more shots than what a David Silva would do, than what an Ozil would do, or those kind of midfielders would do. So James McAtee is another name which you should keep an eye on, which will be very interesting. Now coming to the wingers are very interesting. No names thrown around. Kingsley Coman was a name that was thrown around I think it was a few weeks back. To be fair, Kingsley Coman was thrown around, and people were saying he's the perfect winger for Pep and all of that. But looking at the system we are playing, it's not a Kingsley Coman system. It's a system for people like Mitoma. It's a system for people like Noto of Leeds. It's a system where your winger is more conservative with the ball, but he knows when to drive past his fullback. He knows when to take a risk, when not to take a risk. This is not a system for a pacey winger. This is a system for a winger like Jack Grealish, someone who can move with intelligence and not pace. See, you can beat your man with pace, but you can also beat your man with intelligence. So I think Pep Guardiola is looking for a player who can beat his man with intelligence. And for me, there are two players out there who can do that at this point of time. It's Mitoma of Brighton and Noto of Leeds. Mitoma could be difficult. Brighton will now ask half of Manchester City's training ground in order to sign Mitoma. I think Mitoma is not possible right now, but Mitoma is not possible right now. But I think Wilfried Noto. I'm actually surprised that we have not gone for Wilfried Noto actually, because Leeds are relegated. He'll come to us for 25-30 million. That will be more than enough. So Wilfried Noto is actually, I mean, Gary Neville said, I think 3, 4, 5 months back, that he sees Wilfried Noto at a club like City. He has all the attributes. Every time I've seen Wilfried Noto, is like, wow, he needs to be at City. He's just like superb. The way he dribbles, the way he uses the ball, his intelligence, the way he never loses the ball. Wilfried Noto for me, I'll be surprised if we don't go for him by the end of this transfer window, because we have to look at a winger. Kwicha Kvaratskhelia is spending 100 million pounds for him after we spend it for Gvardiol is just a nonsense. Even though we have the money, I actually don't agree with it. So I actually think that Wilfried Noto should be on the radar, because are there any other wingers coming from the academy? I know there's Carlos Borges. I want him. It's interesting how Pep uses him in the preseason, but for me, I think he still needs to learn how to retain the ball more. So depends. I think depends on what Pep Guardiola is actually looking at this season. And at the end, coming to Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker is also almost set to join Bayern. So it's actually interesting to look at his replacements. We have been linked with two players, Benjamin Pavard and Ashraf Hakimi. It's a difficult choice for me. I would ideally have both, because both of them have their strengths and both of them have the weaknesses. Hakimi is the more tempting one because he has greater recovery pace than Kyle Walker. He can outpace Kylian Mbappe on a foot race. I was actually seeing in a video a few days back. So Hakimi will be the tempting one. His forward play is excellent. The way he can go into the midfield, the way he the way he carries the ball through that midfield, the way he can carry that possession safely. I mean, you look at Hakimi in isolation and you actually think that this is a Pep Guardiola fullback. This is actually a Pep Guardiola fullback, Ashraf Hakimi. But then you look at Benjamin Pavard, and Benjamin Pavard does not have the pace. His crossing ability is not as good as Ashraf Hakimi, though is good on the ball technically, and but he's solid defensively. So I think defensive thing is what separates Hakimi from Benjamin Pavard. Vishal is here. Hey Vishal, how are you doing? He says Arsenal's had a mad transfer window until now. Exciting season ahead. How many teams do you think Vishal will challenge for the trophy this season? And do you think that what do you think about Liverpool's team? Especially when I've been actually discussing this with a lot of my friends more, looking at Liverpool's team and the Arsenal transfer window. I was like speaking to them about how will Arsenal cope with Liverpool. How will Arsenal cope with Liverpool? Because Vishal, if you remember the match, especially at the Etihad against us, how you were beaten, just counter attack, right? And Liverpool will do exactly that. And Liverpool are 100 times better than us in doing what we did to you at the Etihad. Especially against a passing team, they just kill you. They just rock possession, two pass counter attack goal. That is how Liverpool play. So if I'm Arsenal, I would actually be scared of what Liverpool are actually building there in terms of the refreshing the midfield, the pace, the pace in behind and all of the stuff. Because City at their prime, because Man City at the prime, 2016 from 2017 onwards, Pep could not do anything to Liverpool. If you look at the head to head matches, there most of the matches are just draws or City win narrowly, Liverpool win narrowly, but most of them are actually draws. Which means that and Arteta's style of play is similar to what Pep played during that season 2017 to 2021 that season, right? Fullbacks coming in, false nine and all of those things. Liverpool will be a tough nut to crack. It will be tough for City as well. I'm just not telling Arsenal it will be tough for City as well. But just your thoughts on how could Arsenal fans be feeling about it, about this season? Vishal says it's going to be a three-way title race. City, Arsenal, Liverpool. They've had an incredible transfer window also. Vishal says we upgraded midfield and defense. I rate our chances quite highly to be frank. And you should, Vishal. You should actually. And another thing is, yes, you have had a fabulous transfer window. Declan Rice, Hurrien Timber now is excellent. He could play at right back and centre back as well. And I just think that you'll go for another midfielder as well because Shaka is left and Partey is also leaving if I'm not wrong. And you also might go for an upgrade on second striker to Gabriel Jesus in case Gabriel Jesus gets injured. But one thing, Vishal, is that you guys will have the experience from last season, regardless of whom you sign from now or don't in the transfer window. That experience is so vital in a title race. You guys will have the experience, and if you guys find yourself in that position which you did last season, I do think you could. I do think you would fade better. You would fare better, but again, it depends on how the other teams around you are playing. Because last season, apart from City and Arsenal, I think none of the other teams were up to the standard. This season, looking at the transfer window already, I'm like Liverpool have upgraded. Newcastle about Tonali, they're bid for Kuchak Watshilia for 82 million pounds or so. Newcastle are looking dangerous. Spurs are making some shrewd signings, though I know Spurs will be Spurs. They're not to be a threat. So teams overall, Brighton are improving. So Chelsea will not be the same team. So I think it's also going to be a tough race, not just for Arsenal, for all of the teams around. I think for City, Arsenal, and Liverpool, with respect to the competition around them, with respect to the teams who have upgraded. Vishal says if Partey leaves, we are getting Lavia or Kessie. That could be the tricky situation, Vishal. That could be really tricky because Liverpool are in pole position to sign Romeo Lavia. And Chelsea are in negotiations for Casido, and Chelsea are ready to pay around 110 million pounds. So I think Arsenal will not pay another 110 million pounds. There's no chance they can pay 110 million pounds after spending 100 million on Declan Rice and another 50, 60 on Uri Timber. There's no chance. I think Chelsea are going to get Casido. Liverpool are going to get Lavia because Henderson is going to Saudi for 30-40 million. Fabinho is going to Saudi for 30-40 million. So suddenly Liverpool have 80. If they want, they can go for Casido as well. And just imagine the midfield of Liverpool with Casido. If they get him McAllister and Sabozalai, that will just be scary. My God, that will just be too scary. Vishal says, "Lol, leave Spurs. If Kane leaves, they will get relegated for sure." That is true, Vishal. That is true. The only thing, Vishal, is before Spurs get relegated, I want to win. I want to score a bloody goal in their North London stadium, in their new stadium. I want to win against them in their new stadium. Not once since that stadium opened, we have won against them. Hell, leave winning. We have not scored a goal against them. So I just want us to win against them before they get relegated. Vishal says Arteta will do a madness and find some jump from Brentford or something. That's actually gonna be the challenge, Vishal. That's actually gonna be the challenge. How are you gonna replace Thomas Partey? I mean, I know that a few Arsenal fans would say that Declan Rice could be the replacement for Thomas Partey because he could play there, and then you could maybe bring in other attacking midfielder or something like that. Or you'd say that Thomas Partey stays, and if he gets injured, Declan Rice could be a cover. I mean, I'm not seeing your preseason matches actually. How is Arteta playing? What is the formation? If you have seen them, is it a 4-3-3 or is it a variation of three centre backs at the back or something like that? Because the formation also will be interesting. Because City have switched to John Stones going into the midfield, so effectively it's a three at the back plus two in the midfield plus three wingers up front and two in the midfield. So Inter showed the whole world, Inter showed everyone how to counter that. The way to counter that is just match the formation, and in Inzaghi showed that. So I'm actually wondering if more and more managers, especially the likes of Arteta, Klopp, even Ten Hag to an extent, are thinking about doing what Inter did to City and and they gained an extra a man advantage in the midfield. So that's actually going to be interesting how people set up. I mean, I won't be surprised if Arteta actually sets up with the three at the back, because that could be the reason actually that is bought Hurrien Timber, because you look at that Saliba, Hurrien Timber, and probably a Gabriel could play in your back three with Kieran Tierney making the back four, and I think Hurrien Timber or even William Saliba could just go into the midfield like a John Stones does, and then you have a back three of Timber, Tierney, and one of your left back. So it's interesting the permutations and combinations what Arteta can do, and bringing in Hurrien Timber has actually given him the flexibility to do that, because he could play a flat back four with Timber at right back. He could also play a back three with Timber as part of the three, and he could also tell Timber to move to the midfield like a John Stones does. So it's actually interesting what Arteta can do with this formation. Vishal says Rice has been bought into play in the eight. If Partey leaves, we definitely need to replace him. I actually think Vishal, Declan Rice could. You're right. Declan Rice has been bought to play that box to box role, which, I mean, you guys wanted a Gundogan as well, and that similar role. But I think it will be a rotation because Partey is injury prone. If Partey doesn't leave, I think Arteta would want to rotate Partey in and out of the squad. So Declan Rice would play as a pivot, and also as a box to box player. So that's gonna be interesting. But I'm sure he will rotate. There's no way that if Thomas Partey stays, there's no way that Declan Rice is just able to play. I mean, there's another version of it actually. I think you could also say that Declan Rice could play in the John Stones role. What Pep is doing with John Stones, Arteta could play a back four, and then he could play Declan Rice in the back four and tell him to move into the midfield like a John Stones does. That could also be the thing, and Declan Rice is the best at it because he's grown through the academy being a midfielder and sorry being a centre back, and then he's played in as a holding midfielder at West Ham. So the permutations and combinations are just so many. They're actually there for Arteta to exploit. Vishal says we have no formation lol in the game against Nuremberg. I saw Saliba playing Cam. I, I just think he's trying things out, but there you go. I think Saliba playing Cam is another example of Arteta wanting to see whether his centre backs can come into the midfield like a John Stones does and things like that. So it's just going to be Arteta experimenting a hell lot, and also Vishal, I think you need to remember that you guys have Champions League as well this season. So Champions League will actually take a lot out of you guys as well. It's not just going straight at the Premier League title. It's not just telling we don't care about Europa League or Carabao Cup or FA Cup, and we'll just focus on the Premier League one game at a time. You can't say that this season because there is the Champions League. Come the fag end of the season, you see what you see what City did at the end of the season, and also you see what Liverpool did at the end of the season. Liverpool actually gave you a glimpse of what they're capable of. I think Liverpool also went on a run last season towards the fag end. So so it's actually going to be very very interesting how Arsenal cope with the added exertions of the Champions League. I think you need a cover for Gabriel Jesus. I don't think who's the one, not Reece Nelson. I don't remember the name of your striker who played when Gabriel Jesus was injured. I don't think he is at Nketiah. Eddie Nketiah, I don't think is actually the one to replace Gabriel Jesus. I think you need cover at the striker position. You need cover for Thomas Partey as well if he doesn't leave. Vishal says Kivior is our left back. He was incredible in the first game. We'll have to see how Kivior adapts because I know he's had a few bad games against Brighton last season and stuff, but I think there's a genuine talent there in terms of in terms of Kivior. Actually, I think there is a genuine talent there. So I mean, one thing with Arteta is he's actually bought in the players who he has lacked last season in terms of Tomiyasu injured, Saliba injured, season was over for you guys almost. This season he has bought in cover Hurrien Timber centre back, right back. Kivior can play centre back, left back. So suddenly, two shrewd signings to cover four positions. Good business by Edu and Arteta, I must say. Vishal says Rice is going to play in the Shaka role. His attacking play is incredible. That is it. I mean, I do expect him to play in that role. Vishal, that Shaka role, he's an upgrade on Shaka for sure because he does both the sides of the game well. But I just think that he could also be utilized in that role, centre back, stepping into the midfield because I think Arteta will have to tweak something in the formation. He just can't play 4-3-3. And there's another thing I actually noticed towards the end of last season. What teams were doing, especially from that Liverpool game. What teams were doing is they were blocking off supply to Martinelli and Saka, especially Liverpool in the second half, West Ham in the second half, Southampton throughout. Man City did it very well to you. Brighton did it very well. Brighton did it exceptionally well. They blocked off the supply to Martinelli and Saka, and your game was over. So if you imagine a scenario, Vishal, where the supply to Martinelli and Saka is blocked off, how do you see the attacking play develop for Arsenal? Because that for me is a big, big concern if I'm an Arsenal fan and I think about the season going forward. I would say, I would think the teams have figured it out last season. That's why Saka was ineffective in the second half. It's not that he has lost form. Teams have figured him out. They were man marking him. They were cutting off the supplies to Saka. They were cutting off the supplies to Martinelli. That's something you actually need to think, and I would be a bit more worried about those aspects as well. And I would like to bring one more cover on one of your wings. I know you've got Trossard. Vishal says our attack is very fluid. Martinelli, Trossard, Havertz, even ESR can play as a centre forward. Vishal says that is where Rice comes in. He has the highest ball progressions from midfield last season, and Odegaard is going to step his game up as well. I think I somehow have a feeling that you guys are actually gonna play through the midfield more than through the wings because last season your entire gameplay was through the wings. but this season you're gonna play through the midfield. But then that is again gonna be an issue, Vishal. If you play through the midfield, you're playing against a Liverpool or you're playing against my club City. What did City do? Press high, take the ball, counter attack. Liverpool are masters at it. Press high, take the ball, counter, goal. Or you play through the middle, you lose the ball. What did City do? One long ball, Haaland was through. One long ball, Salah will be through. Darwin Nunes will be through. Luis Diaz will be through. There's no catching them. So think there's a reason why Mikel Arteta plays through the wings. There's a reason why Pep Guardiola always wants to go to Jack Grealish and then wants to put the ball in. There's a reason why Erling Haaland makes 30 runs every match, but only one or two balls reach him. It's not that City players don't see him. It's just that if you lose position playing through the midfield, I don't care if you're a Kovacic or a Declan Rice or someone else or you're the best ball progressor in the world, but playing through the middle is so much easier for the opposition to cover you. And once you lose the ball in the middle, I think it could very well be curtains against teams like Liverpool and City. So I know Arsenal have had an incredible transfer window, but I was just analyzing the opponents, who could be these opponents, Arsenal and Liverpool, and what are the strengths. Where could, for example, Arsenal face difficulties? Where could Liverpool face difficulties? And especially with Arsenal, I'm like, this could be where they could be vulnerable. Declan Rice progression through the middle, that is okay. It's easy to cover through the middle. They want to play wide. Teams are well versed in putting a man on Saka. So Arteta has to work things out. It's not as rosy as some people would like to think. Bringing in Declan Rice, it's very good, but it's not the complete product. I disagree that Declan Rice makes Arsenal complete. Still, there are things to do, but they have definitely progressed from last season. Vishal says that is where we get Howard's ability. He's tall and good at hold up. If nothing works, then a simple ball over the top and a runners are him. There are combinations, Vishal. I'm not criticizing Arsenal or I'm not criticizing Liverpool. I'm just looking at the pros and the cons of where Arsenal could be found out. The pros are there, like we have discussed, and the cons, I think, the cons is where I'm, of course, interested because I'm a City fan and I look at it and I'm like, this could be a chance playing through the middle. This could be a chance blocking Saka off. But you're right, Havertz is another tactical signing. A lot of Chelsea fans don't seem to actually realize this. A lot of Chelsea fans are like, even on social media and all, I see a lot of Chelsea fans and they're like, Kai Havertz, good that he's gone. I'm like, you mad idiots, you did not know how to utilize Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz, when utilized very well by a very good tactical coach, can be absolutely brutal. Kai Havertz can play in the midfield. Kai Havertz is very good at hold up. Kai Havertz is his heading ability is superb. He makes those late runs into the box. Havertz is good. It's just that Chelsea could not make good use of Kai Havertz. Michelle says, of course not. We are a work in progress, but all we can do is just do better than last season. We did last season, and we are. Michelle says, Chelsea didn't know how to exactly. Chelsea didn't know how to use him because the ability of Kai Havertz was almost a player similar to what a Florian Wirtz is right now in terms of how he played in the Bundesliga. I think Kai Havertz also came from Bayern Leverkusen. I'm not sure, but from a Bundesliga team. Havertz has a lot of potential, and a lot of Chelsea fans will see what they have missed out on with Kai Havertz. It's going to be a very interesting season, but it's going to be a superb season for me. It's going to be much more tough. It's going to be competitive. What do you? I mean, I know it's a long time to go. Season hasn't started, but what do you think about the points tally this time for the title? Do you think it will be 90 plus? Do you think it will be early 90s, late 90s, or do you think it will be mid 80s? What do you think will be the points total this season? Because the Premier League has got a reputation that if you want to win a title, you have to at least go till the mid 90s. So, so it's I mean it's difficult to judge that how much points tally will be enough. Vishal says he was unplayable at Leverkusen. How these Chelsea fans can say he's useless after not using his abilities currently baffles me. I know his finishing has not been good at Chelsea, but again, finishing is all up to confidence. It's not up to ability. I mean, you take the confidence out of Erling Haaland, and even he will finish badly. Finishing is all about confidence. Why do coaches want strikers to take penalties? The reason is each goal they score, however they score, it doesn't matter. It just builds the confidence in them, and that is the reasons why coaches want strikers to take penalties. And I think the confidence of Havertz was down at Chelsea. I mean, it's not one striker, it's multiple strikers. Werner flopped. His finishing was not good. Havertz's finishing was not good. Lukaku's finishing just dropped after he went to Chelsea. It's not Morata's finishing became shit. It's not just one striker, but it's 4 or 5 strikers who have just lost their finishing touch. Has to be a problem with Chelsea's coaching staff. The one who makes strikers practice his attacking drills has to be a problem at Chelsea and not the player, to be fair. Vishal says, I actually think it will be in the 80s. So many teams have upgraded in so many places. I feel there'll be more losses this season for the big clubs. The key, Vishal, I think, should be to actually start the season well. I think this season, especially, you do not want to be in a situation where City were at the end of January. Like you're so far behind, and you have a lot to cover up. It's just not possible every season. I think one thing teams will have to see is that they just don't give a head start to their opponent. I mean, if a City, for example, if you lose 2 3 games and Arsenal win everything, Liverpool will win everything, it's going to be difficult this season. So I mean, I think it will be early 90s. It won't go into the mid 90s. It will be early 90s, I think. I mean, I do not see a team actually racing away with the league and winning all of the matches, but I see a tough competition, like you said. I see your Newcastle, Chelsea's, Brighton will be good, Brentford will be good. A lot of those teams, Burnley will be good, surprisingly. United will find it extremely tough. So it's actually going to be interesting. But for me, I think it will be early 90s, around 92, 93. Vishal says it's not just finishing, the way they get into the position and the way they receive the ball has been coached wrong. And that too, when you coach a young player wrong like Havertz, he just develops those wrong habits, those wrong attitudes. And once those attitudes are fed into the muscle memory, because the game is played at rapid pace, that you just rely on your muscle memory. Ball is coming there, turn, boom, finish. So, so I think work has to be done on Havertz. I think we all need to accept that work has to be done on Kai Havertz. But I think he could be another gem over there. He could be another absolute gem. And Mikel Arteta has got finishing out of Raheem Sterling, who's one of the worst finishers. Who's one of the worst finishers. Arteta has polished his finishing. So if Arteta can do it to Raheem Sterling, Arteta could actually do it to anyone and everyone. We shall just Luton to smash Spurs at home. Will be there no matter what. Spurs will get a lot more smashings this season, but with Spurs, I'm just I don't know. First thing, I don't know why does Daniel Levy want to hold on to a 30, 31, almost a 30-year-old player in Harry Kane, where instead he could take that 80, 100 million and rebuild and buy someone like a Victor Osimhen. If you give Napoli 120, they will give you Victor Osimhen. Bring a Victor Osimhen and rebuild the team around him. I don't know why Daniel Levy doesn't do that. One thing about Spurs is I would be interested in seeing their style of play. What will be their style of play? And also, they have brought in a coach from the Celtic League, and it's generally not that competitive at all, that league. And Spurs, I would not be surprised if they finish in the bottom half of the table. So, Vishal says, and then they will beat City 1 with a song screamer. Just don't remind me about that, Vishal. We haven't bloody won a game at Spurs home until that stadium opened. I think Daniel Levy conducted a jinx so that City don't score and open that stadium. We somehow bloody cannot seem to score. at that stadium since 2019 or something when that stadium opened. Don't know why. Don't know why. So it's just been an incredible transfer window till now. I mean, incredible in the sense of not too many Sun players have come. I know for Arsenal players have come. I know for Liverpool players have come. But it's been a transfer window, especially for City in terms of how could you improve this treble winning team? Who could be the players who could come in? Who could replace Gundogan? Where should Pep plug the holes? All of those little tactical things. How do you get the motivation out of a team who have won three Premier Leagues in a row, who have won four of the last five Premier League titles, have just completed a treble? How do you motivate such a side? How do you make sure that the core of the side doesn't leave looking for the next adventure now that they have won everything? A lot of inner battles for City, I must say, a lot of inner battles to actually solve. It's almost like an equation to be solved in this transfer window. Though I think transfer windows in football in general is art more than craft. But one thing I would say is I'm very happy that Tuan Malilo has come into City. Is almost coming into City, so that should bring in a bit of freshness into the team. Anyway, guys, thanks. Before we go, Vishal says, "Cheers, mate. Good luck to City, but I predict an Arsenal title this season." Be optimistic, Vishal. Be optimistic. That's how each fan should be towards their club. Till the end, you support the club. You should be optimistic. That is the best way to go. And I like that energy. And just like you, I'm optimistic that we we could actually do it for the fourth time. Though I don't like predictions, but I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that we will fight till the end. Whatever happens in the title race, we will fight till the end, till the very end. And we want to retain the Champions League as well and just become the second team in the history of the European competition to retain the Champions League. Then, especially United fans will start to cry. Retain in the Champions League, which they have never done. So, again, thanks a lot for joining me, Vishal, and everyone else who have joined the stream. Thanks a lot, and thanks a lot for your wonderful comments, Vishal. It's been a great discussion, I would say, and let us see how the transfer window goes. There's going to be a lot of twists and turns, and this is going to be a domino effect in this transfer window for me. And Vishal is too optimistic. CL as well. Vishal, why don't you just throw in the Carabao Cup and FA Cup as well, along with the invincible thing? Wow. Too much to ask, right? Too much to ask. But let us see how it goes. And thanks a lot, guys, for